Have you ever wondered why life feels heaviest right when you're trying your hardest to rebuild yourself? Why nothing moves, even when you desperately want to reset your life, change your mentality, build disciplined habits, or finally embrace personal growth? When the soul is tired, it whispers louder than life itself. What if your exhaustion isn't failure, but guidance? Buddhism teaches that these moments aren't breakdowns. They're turning points inviting you to overcome fear and return to your truth. Before we begin, subscribe to Deep Wisdom, where every video is a doorway to calm and Buddhist teachings you won't find anywhere else. And stay till the end. There is a hidden bonus lesson waiting, one that might shift everything you think you know about why nothing goes your way. 1. The weight you're fighting is your own resistance. The weight you're carrying today may not be the world pressing down on you. It may simply be your own resistance tightening around your heart. When you're tired of everything, when life feels heavier the more you push, pause for a moment and ask, why does life become heavier the harder I fight it? What if the struggle isn't punishment, but misdirection? There is a quiet truth in Buddhist wisdom. Suffering is not born from life itself, but from the way we cling, refuse, distort, and resist. As one old monk once whispered, life becomes loud only when you stop listening. And perhaps this is where your exhaustion begins, not in what you face, but in what you refuse to face. Imagine this for a moment, a river flowing gently through a forest. It doesn't crush the stone lying in its path. The stone crushes itself, trying to resist the river. In the same way, peace is not taken from you. You push it away when you insist that life must unfold only in your way, in your timing, in your expectations. But what if peace returns the moment you stop swimming upstream? Close your eyes for a breath. Picture water moving around you, not against you. Notice how, when you stop forcing, stop controlling, stop arguing with reality, your breath softens, your mind loosens. Your soul remembers that it was never meant to fight the current. It was meant to move with it. You may feel tired because you've been holding on to something that has already asked to be released. A relationship that no longer grows. A version of yourself that no longer fits. A dream that has quietly expired. What are you resisting that is already trying to let you go? And where are you pushing when you should be listening? Sometimes life closes a door not to block you, but to redirect you. Sometimes the delay is not a denial, only a whisper that says, look again, not here. There is a deeper truth beneath your exhaustion. You are not weak. You are misaligned. The universe is not fighting you. It is waiting for you to stop fighting yourself. When nothing goes your way, perhaps the way you're following is no longer yours. So ask yourself gently, what truth have I avoided because it scares me? Let that question open a doorway inside you. Because the moment you stop resisting, clarity rises. The moment you let go, strength returns. And remember this, you build a strong, disciplined mind, not by force, but by surrendering to what is real. When you stop resisting, you stop suffering. And when you stop suffering, your life begins again. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "Fear can't stop me." 2. Exhaustion is your soul whispering, "Not this way." There comes a moment in every soul's journey when exhaustion feels like a shadow following your every step. But what if this tiredness is not weakness, but guidance? What if burnout is not life defeating you, but your spirit whispering, "Not this way"? Buddhist wisdom teaches that when the mind is tired, it is not failing, It is revealing the places where you have wandered away from yourself. And in that quiet space, a truth rises like a soft flame. When the inner flame dims, it is asking for new air. This is not a sign to push harder, but a sign to pause, to listen, to breathe. Think of a lantern on a windy night. It does not flicker because the light is dying. It flickers because it needs space to breathe. The same is true for you. Your soul is not collapsing. It's signaling that something in your life has become too tight, too forced, too far from who you really are. Place your hand gently on your heart for a moment. Imagine feeling the heaviness soften, as if your tired spirit finally recognizes that it doesn't need to pretend anymore. Then picture each slow breath rebuilding the inner space you've been ignoring. In that space, you begin to see what your exhaustion has been trying to tell you. What part of you is exhausted from pretending? Pretending to be strong for everyone. Pretending to be fine when you're breaking. Pretending a path still inspires you when it only drains you. Even a strong heart grows weary when it must carry a life that no longer fits. Where are you forcing what no longer aligns with your truth? Perhaps a job that once felt meaningful now feels empty. A dream you once chased no longer lights your spirit. A version of yourself you once needed has now become a cage. Exhaustion is not the enemy. It is the messenger. And what would happen if you simply stopped for a moment? What if stopping is not giving up, but finally giving yourself permission to return to yourself? In the quiet pause, clarity appears. In the stillness, direction returns. Your soul is calling you back to what matters, back to what feels true, back to the path that restores your inner flame. When you listen, peace follows. When you stop forcing, your life begins to open again. 3. Feeling stuck is your inner compass sabotaging the wrong path. There are moments when life feels frozen, when every step forward feels heavy, unclear, or impossible. But what if this feeling of being stuck is not a failure, but protection? What if your inner compass is quietly sabotaging the wrong path so you don't wander any further from yourself? Buddhist wisdom teaches that obstacles often appear not to block your destiny, but to block your misdirection. When the heart strays from its truth, the world begins to resist. As the old saying goes, when the path is wrong, even the wind becomes a wall. This resistance is not cruelty, it is correction. Imagine a compass jammed at north. It isn't broken, it's refusing to let you get lost again. Your inner compass works the same way. When something in your life feels stuck, your work, your goals, your relationships, it may not be because you're incapable. It may be because your deeper self no longer wants to spend energy on what drains your spirit. Visualize yourself standing at a crossroads. The path on your left is familiar but heavy. The path on your right is quieter, lighter, almost glowing with a subtle peace. In your mind, take one gentle step toward that light and feel how your breath softens. Feeling stuck was never the problem. It was the guidance trying to turn you toward the right direction. Where in your life does progress feel forced? Perhaps you've been pushing yourself into spaces where you no longer belong, chasing achievements that no longer matter, holding on to dreams that were built for an older version of you. Even the strongest mind becomes tired when it walks a path meant for someone it no longer is. What desire are you chasing that drains you instead of healing you? Not every longing is sacred. Some are born from fear, from comparison, from old wounds. And your soul knows the difference. Your exhaustion is revealing it. And what path feels lighter, even if it scares you? Very often, the path of peace feels frightening at first, because it demands honesty, letting go, and courage. But the body knows, the heart knows, the breath knows. Lightness is the sign. Ease is the direction. When you feel stuck, don't punish yourself. Listen, your compass is realigning. Your spirit is protecting you. And the moment you trust that gentle guidance, the path that is meant for you will begin to open, quietly, naturally, unmistakably. 4. Calm is not found by fixing life, but by stopping the mind. There is a reason the world feels heaviest when your mind refuses to be still. You may think that peace will come when every problem is solved, every uncertainty answered, every loose end tied. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us that calm is not found by fixing life. It is found by stopping the mind that keeps trying to fix everything. And this opens a quiet doorway inside you. Why does the world feel chaotic only when the mind refuses silence? The ancient masters would say, nothing outside can disturb you unless something inside is already trembling. This trembling is not weakness. It is the signal that your mind has wandered too far from the present moment, too deep into imagined futures or unresolved yesterdays. Peace slips away, not because life is broken, but because the mind is swirling like water caught in a storm. Picture a lake after heavy rain. It doesn't become clear because the storm ends. It becomes clear because the water stops stirring. The same is true for you. Clarity is born when the mind stops chasing, fearing, resisting, and clinging. Stillness is not the absence of problems. It is the absence of mental turbulence. Imagine your thoughts as leaves floating on water. Some leaves are heavy with fear, others sharp with anger or worry. Instead of reaching for them, simply watch them drift. Observe them without judgment, without trying to control or interpret. Slowly, the leaves begin to move on their own, and the water becomes clear again. This is what happens inside you when you stop wrestling with every thought that appears. Which thoughts do you cling to the hardest? The ones born from fear? The ones that demand control? The ones that whisper worst-case scenarios? Even the gentlest mind becomes restless when clinging becomes a habit. What do you fear will happen if you stop controlling everything? Perhaps you believe chaos will grow or life will fall apart. But often, the opposite is true. Life softens when you soften. Peace arrives when you stop forcing outcomes. The moment you loosen your grip, the universe has room to work. Where can you surrender just a little today? Not in a grand, dramatic way, but in one small breath, one softened thought, one moment of letting life be as it is. In that surrender, a quiet strength rises. In that stillness, peace finds you again. Not because life became easier, but because your mind finally became clear. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "Fear can't stop me." Discipline fails when the heart is wounded. Sometimes you blame yourself for not being disciplined enough, for losing focus, for falling behind. But what if the real issue is not discipline at all? What if your tiredness, your inconsistency, your lack of motivation is emotional exhaustion disguised as laziness? This gentle question touches the truth. Discipline fails when the heart is wounded. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that structure cannot survive where the spirit is hurting. As the old teaching says, a wounded mind cannot hold structure. You cannot force strength from a place that hasn't been given space to breathe. You cannot demand discipline from a heart that has been carrying silent battles. So before you punish yourself, pause and listen to what your spirit has been trying to say. Imagine a tree standing in a quiet forest. It might have strong branches, wide leaves, and the desire to reach the sky. But if its roots are broken, no effort will help it stand tall. The same is true for you. You may try to push harder, commit stronger, focus better, but if your emotional roots are injured, discipline becomes impossible. Healing must come before effort. Close your eyes for a moment and visualize roots growing from your feet, deep into warm, stable earth. Feel the ground holding you without judgment, without pressure. With every breath, imagine your strength returning from below, rising gently through your body. This is the strength that lasts, not forced discipline, but restored alignment. Where are you expecting discipline without healing? Maybe you expect yourself to be productive while carrying grief. Maybe you demand motivation while battling loneliness. Maybe you push yourself towards self-improvement while ignoring the wound that keeps reopening. Healing isn't a distraction from growth, it is the foundation of it. What wound have you ignored in the name of productivity? The disappointment you never processed, the stress you swallowed, the fear you pretended wasn't there. These wounds quietly drain your inner energy, leaving you confused about why you can't stay consistent. And what is one small habit you can rebuild gently? Not from pressure, but from compassion. Maybe it's one mindful breath in the morning, one honest conversation with yourself, one moment of rest without guilt. Discipline grows naturally when the heart is nourished. You are not broken, you are healing. And the moment you tend to your inner wounds, your outer strength returns, steady, grounded, unshakable. 6. You can't move forward while carrying emotional debt. There are days when your body feels heavy, your mind feels crowded, and your heart feels older than it should. But what if the heaviness of today has nothing to do with today? What if you are not tired from this moment, but from the emotional debt you've been carrying quietly for years? Buddhist wisdom teaches that we do not suffer because the present is unbearable. We suffer because the past hasn't been released. And so a gentle truth emerges. The past doesn't need you, but it still follows when you don't release it. You cannot move forward while dragging the weight of old stories, old wounds, and old versions of yourself. Imagine trying to climb a mountain while hauling sandbags on your back. The climb is not difficult, your load is. And yet you keep telling yourself to push harder, breathe deeper, move faster, without realizing the real problem is the weight you refuse to put down. Emotional debt works the same way. It slows every step, clouds every choice, and steals the joy from moments that should feel light. Visualize a simple bag resting on your back. Inside it lies one stone for every unresolved memory, every unspoken pain, every grudge, every regret you never faced. Now imagine reaching into that bag and removing just one stone, one memory you no longer need to carry. Feel the difference in your breath, the slight ease in your shoulders. This is the power of releasing what no longer serves you. Ask yourself gently, what memory drains me the most? Not the loud ones, but the ones that quietly tighten your chest when you think of them. These memories don't want to be carried. They want to be acknowledged and then freed. Who are you still arguing with in your mind? Perhaps someone from long ago, someone who hurt you, someone who didn't understand you. But each time you replay that argument, you re-enter a story that should have ended. Peace begins the moment you stop rehearsing pain. And what belief about yourself must you finally put down? Maybe the belief that you're not enough, that you're behind, that you're unworthy, that you must earn love or prove your value. These beliefs are the heaviest stones of all. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means freeing your spirit so you can step forward without dragging yesterday along with you. When you release emotional debt, the path ahead becomes lighter, clearer, and finally possible. 7. Peace begins when you stop negotiating with your fears. There comes a moment when fear stops being a whisper and becomes a storm inside the mind. But have you noticed, the more you negotiate with your fears, the louder they become? Fear feeds on hesitation, on overthinking, on the endless bargaining you do in the silence of your thoughts. Buddhist wisdom reminds us of a simple truth. Fear grows through the attention you feed it. Fear is not always the monster you imagine. It is often only a shadow cast by doubt. And a shadow becomes monstrous only when you refuse to turn on the light. When you dare to look directly at it, when you stop running and finally face the truth. The shadow shrinks instantly. Its power fades, its voice weakens. Imagine yourself sitting in a quiet room. A shadow stands before you, uncertain, distorted, intimidating. Now imagine turning toward it with complete honesty. Watch how the shape loses its size, how it dissolves as light touches it. Feel the relief that washes through you when you realize the fear was never as big as your mind made it. This is the peace that arrives when you stop negotiating with what frightens you. What fear have you been feeding for years? The fear of failing, the fear of being alone, the fear of disappointing others, the fear that you'll never become who you wish to be. Each time you replay these fears, you give them life. Each time you avoid them, you strengthen their roots. What truth are you avoiding because it demands your growth? Some truths require you to step out of comfort, to accept change, to let go of old identities. And so the mind resists and fear becomes louder, not because the path is wrong, but because transformation is approaching. Ask yourself gently, what would I do if fear had no voice? If no doubt held your feet still? Where would you go? Who would you become? What decision would you finally make? Often, the life you truly want is waiting just beyond the fear you keep reasoning with. Peace begins the moment you stop feeding the shadows, the moment you stop arguing with imagined outcomes, the moment you stop negotiating with fear as if it has authority over your soul. When you turn toward truth, calmly, courageously, fear loses its power and clarity returns like dawn after a long night. Walk forward with honesty and watch the shadows fall behind you. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "Fear can't stop me." 8. Stop trying to control what is not yours to hold. So much of your suffering does not come from what life brings, but from what you keep trying to hold, control, and cling to. When you are tired of everything, when your heart feels stretched thin, ask yourself a quiet question. How much of this pain comes from carrying burdens that were never mine? In the silence that follows, a profound truth emerges. You are trying to control what is not yours to hold. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that everything in life has its own nature, its own season, its own direction. Nothing that isn't meant for you will stay, no matter how tightly you grip it. And nothing meant for you will ever require that you exhaust your soul trying to keep it. As the old teaching murmurs, what wasn't meant for you will always slip away. This is not loss, it is alignment. Picture yourself trying to hold flowing water in your hands. The tighter you grip, the faster it escapes. Relationships, expectations, outcomes, and identities work the same way. When you cling out of fear, life becomes a battle. When you open your hand, life flows as it needs to. Surrender is not weakness, it is wisdom. Hold your hands out in your mind. Notice the tension in your palms, the urge to control, the instinct to cling. Now slowly unclench them. Feel the relaxation travel up your arms, into your chest, into the center of your being. This is what it feels like to stop carrying what was never meant to be your responsibility. This is the beginning of peace. Ask yourself gently, what am I gripping that wants to leave? A relationship you've outgrown, a plan that keeps collapsing, a version of yourself that no longer feels true. Not everything you lose is a loss. Sometimes it's protection. Whose expectations are you living under? Maybe you've been trying to satisfy voices that don't belong to your path. Family pressure, societal ideals, old standards you never questioned. The more you obey those expectations, the further you drift from your authentic center. Letting go is not rebellion, it is returning to yourself. Where can you loosen control by just 1%? You don't need to release everything at once. One softened thought is enough. One breath of acceptance is enough. One moment of allowing life to unfold without interference is enough. When you stop trying to control what isn't yours, your energy returns, your mind clears, your heart breathes. And in that spaciousness, the life meant for you finally has room to enter. Let go, not to lose, but to make space for peace. 9. Alignment is more powerful than effort. There is a quiet turning point in every life when you realize that pushing harder doesn't create peace, and forcing progress doesn't create growth. The world tells you to grind, to hustle, to keep going. But Buddhist wisdom whispers something softer, something truer. Your life changes not when you push harder, but when you align deeper. Because effort without alignment is like running in circles, exhausting, but going nowhere. As the teaching says, effort without alignment is noise without music. You can pour all your strength into the wrong direction and still feel stuck. But one small step, taken in harmony with your truth, can move your entire life forward. Imagine a bow in your hands. If it is pulled in the wrong direction, no amount of force will release the arrow toward its target. But when it aligns, breath, string, arrow, intention, the release becomes effortless. This is how your life works too. Direction matters more than intensity. Clarity matters more than pressure. Visualize your body, breath, and intention forming a single straight line. Feel how the mind quiets when everything inside you points in the same direction. Feel the strength that doesn't come from effort, but from coherence. This is the quiet power of alignment, the place where peace and momentum meet. Ask yourself truthfully, where am I working hard, but not working true? Maybe you're trying to impress people who don't see your worth. Maybe you're chasing goals that no longer reflect who you've become. Maybe you're forcing yourself along a path that drains more life than it gives. Hard work in the wrong direction becomes self-betrayal. What drains you more than it grows you? Not every responsibility is sacred. Not every commitment deserves your spirit. Some tasks, relationships, and routines slowly pull you away from your center. Exhaustion isn't always a sign you need to rest. Sometimes it's a sign you need to realign. And what feels naturally aligned even without effort? Pay attention to the moments when your breath deepens, your shoulders drop, your heart opens. These are signals from your inner compass. The things that feel peaceful, meaningful, and grounding are not coincidences, they are directions. Life becomes lighter when you stop forcing and start listening. Momentum returns when you stop gripping and start trusting. Alignment is not passive, it is powerful. It sharpens your choices, softens your fears, and strengthens your spirit. When you align with what's true, the path ahead unfolds with clarity, and the steps you once struggled to take begin to take themselves. 10. You cannot heal in the same energy that broke you. There comes a moment when the soul finally whispers a truth you can no longer ignore. You cannot heal in the same energy that broke you. We often hope that staying in familiar patterns will somehow create new outcomes, but Buddhist wisdom reminds us gently that transformation cannot grow in the same soil where pain was planted. We ask for change while standing in the very atmosphere that keeps us wounded. And the teaching says, you can change your life, but first you must change your atmosphere. Imagine a plant struggling in toxic soil. No matter how much sunlight it receives, no matter how strong its roots try to grow, the poison beneath it keeps pulling the life out of it. This is what happens to your heart when you stay in environments, routines, or relationships that drain your spirit. Healing is not only an inner process, it is also the air you breathe, the energy you stand in, the space you allow around your soul. Visualize yourself inside a dim, heavy room, the kind where every breath feels tight. Now, picture yourself stepping out into warm sunlight. Feel the shift in your chest as the atmosphere changes. Notice how your breath deepens without effort. This simple vision carries a great truth. Your environment can either compress your spirit or help it expand. Healing begins the moment you choose to step toward light. Ask yourself with honesty, who or what drains my spiritual energy? Sometimes it is a person. Sometimes it is a habit. Sometimes it is the silent, unspoken expectations you keep trying to meet. The body knows before the mind admits it. Your fatigue is wisdom trying to speak. And what environment does your peace thrive in? Think of the spaces, moments, and people where your shoulders loosen, where your breath becomes gentle, where you feel seen without performing. These are not luxuries. These are necessities for healing. Your soul grows where it feels safe. Now, reflect on the hardest question. What must I walk away from to heal? This is where courage enters the path. To heal is to choose yourself, even when the choice trembles. It is to walk away from what breaks you, even when it is familiar. It is to step toward the light, even when the darkness calls you back. You do not heal by fighting the old. You heal by stepping into a new atmosphere, one that honors your peace, nurtures your spirit, and allows your life to bloom again. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're not sure what to say, just type, "Fear can't stop me." 11. Letting go is a spiritual reset, not a loss. There comes a time when your heart grows tired, not because life is heavy, but because you keep gripping what is trying to leave. Buddhist wisdom gently asks, what if everything you're afraid to release is the very thing blocking your peace? We mistake letting go for loss, but the teaching reminds us, release is the beginning of return. Only when the hands open can something new begin its way toward you. Think of a bird trying to lift itself into the sky while clutching a stone in its claws. No matter how strong its wings are, no matter how vast the sky is, it cannot rise until it drops what it carries. In the same way, your spirit cannot ascend while holding weights that no longer belong to you. Old stories, old wounds, outdated identities, unspoken fears. These are not signs of loyalty, they are signs of self-abandonment. Visualize yourself slowly opening your hands. Watch the old burdens dissolve like smoke, losing shape and weight as they disappear. Feel the lightness spreading across your shoulders, as if your whole being exhales for the first time in years. Letting go is not an ending. It is a spiritual reset, an invitation for peace to return home. Now ask gently, what am I holding that holds me hostage? Maybe it is a person. Maybe it is a version of yourself you have outgrown but keep trying to protect. Maybe it is a regret you revisit as if pain could rewrite the past. The truth is simple. Your healing cannot begin while your hands are full of yesterday. Then ask, what part of my identity is built from pain? Sometimes the stories we cling to are the very ones that hurt us most. We hold on to suffering because it feels familiar, because it gives shape to who we think we are. But pain is not a home. It is a moment meant to be passed through. And finally, what freedom waits on the other side of letting go? Close your eyes and feel the space that opens inside you when you imagine releasing just one burden. That space is possibility. That space is peace. That space is the life you have been trying to reach. Letting go is not losing. It is returning to yourself, to clarity, to quiet strength. It is the soul remembering its wings and finally choosing to rise. Bonus lesson. Stillness is where your real life begins again. There is a kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from doing too much, but from running too far away from yourself. And in that running, in that endless noise of thought and expectation, you forget the one place where your real life quietly waits to return to you: stillness. Buddhist wisdom asks, what if the peace you're searching for has been waiting in the silence you avoid? Because, as the old teaching says, the quiet mind hears the truth. The truth has never been absent. It was only drowned beneath the noise. Imagine a small village at dusk, busy with voices, footsteps, and the hum of daily worries. In the center of the village stands a temple bell, yet no one hears its gentle chime until the night settles, until the conversations fade, until the world finally becomes silent enough to listen. Your heart is that bell, and the silence you fear is the only moment where its message becomes clear. Now, visualize yourself sitting in a quiet room. No demands, no pressure. Just breath, soft, steady, echoing gently inside your chest. Feel the clarity rising not from the world, but from within you. Your peace doesn't need noise to announce itself. It returns the moment you stop forcing your mind to solve everything at once. Ask yourself softly, what is the silence inside me trying to say? Perhaps it whispers that you are tired of being strong in places that do not hold you. Perhaps it tells you that your pace has been punishing, that your mind needs tending, not tightening. Silence is the mirror that shows you what you've been running from. Then ask, where do I need stillness more than answers? Not every problem requires a strategy. Some only require space. Some only need a pause long enough for your inner wisdom to rise to the surface. Stillness is not avoidance. It is alignment returning. Finally ask, what truth appears when my mind finally rests? You may discover that the fear you've been negotiating with is smaller than you imagined. The path you thought was blocked may simply be wrong for you. Or the longing you feel may point toward a life that is waiting patiently for your courage. Stillness is not the end of movement. It is where real movement begins again. It is the doorway back to peace, back to clarity, back to yourself. When the mind rests, the heart finally speaks, and in that quiet voice, your new life begins. Quick summary of each principle. The weight you're fighting is your own resistance. Life becomes heavier when we push in the wrong direction. Resistance amplifies suffering because we fight what is already trying to guide us. When we soften, clarity appears. Peace begins the moment we stop forcing our way through everything. Exhaustion is your soul, whispering, not this way. Tiredness is not a failure. It's your inner guidance system warning you that the path you're on is draining your spirit. Exhaustion tells you it's time to pause, reassess, and realign. Rest becomes wisdom when you listen. Stillness reveals the truth you keep running from. Feeling stuck is your inner compass, sabotaging the wrong path. Being stuck often means you're not aligned with your deeper truth. Life blocks what isn't meant to continue. Instead of seeing stagnation as failure, view it as protection. When your values and direction match, movement returns effortlessly. Calm comes when you stop trying to fix everything. Chaos outside intensifies when the mind inside refuses silence. Inner peace is restored not by controlling the world, but by calming the internal storm. Clarity rises when you let thoughts come and go without clinging. Peace is an inward skill, not an outward achievement. Discipline breaks when the heart is overwhelmed. Lack of discipline is often emotional burnout in disguise. You cannot build strong habits on top of unresolved wounds. True discipline grows from emotional balance and gentle consistency. When the heart is supported, discipline becomes natural. You can't move forward while carrying emotional debt. Old pain, memories, and unresolved attachments drain your energy and slow progress. Much of today's heaviness comes from what hasn't been healed. By acknowledging emotional baggage and releasing it, you free yourself to move forward with strength and clarity. Peace begins when you stop negotiating with your fears. Fear gains power each time you bargain with it. Avoidance feeds anxiety. When you finally face your fears directly, their influence shrinks. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's refusing to let fear dictate your life. Stop trying to control what isn't yours to hold. Life becomes painful when we grip outcomes, people, and situations beyond our control. Much suffering comes from expectations, not reality. Freedom begins with acceptance. Letting go of what isn't yours creates room for peace. Alignment is more powerful than effort. Working hard without alignment leads to burnout, frustration, and confusion. When your actions match your inner truth, effort becomes effortless. Life moves forward naturally when you stop fighting yourself. Alignment is the real source of momentum. You can't heal in the same energy that hurt you. Growth requires a shift in environment, mindset, and energy. Staying in the same patterns that caused your pain keeps you stuck. Healing begins when you change your surroundings, inner and outer. Protect your atmosphere and peace returns. Letting go is a spiritual reset, not a loss. Release is a form of spiritual liberation. Holding on drains your emotional energy and blocks new beginnings. When you let go, you create space for clarity, freedom, and transformation. Surrender is strength, not defeat. Stillness is where your real life begins again. Silence restores the mind and reconnects you with your inner truth. Stillness allows you to hear your intuition clearly. When the mind settles, wisdom emerges. Your real life begins the moment your mind stops running. There comes a moment in everyone's life when the weight becomes too heavy, the noise becomes too loud, and the path becomes too unclear. But Buddhism teaches a profound truth. Your breaking point is often your turning point. When nothing goes your way, life is quietly redirecting you. When you feel stuck, something inside you is evolving. And when you're exhausted, your soul is inviting you into a new phase of understanding. The deepest form of strength is not pushing harder. It's finally hearing what your exhaustion has been trying to say. Remember this timeless wisdom. Peace returns the moment you stop running from yourself. You don't need to rush. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to carry every burden alone. Slow down. Let go of the noise you've been holding. Step back into your own breath. The universe moves toward those who create inner space. Tonight, choose stillness, choose clarity, and choose yourself. Like and share this video, share your opinion in the comment box, and subscribe to Deep Wisdom for more inspiring Buddhist insights on living a peaceful life.